Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. My name is Stefan Bienkowski, and today I am joined by my fellow colleagues in the UK team at Transfermarkt, Ben Littemore and Euan Robertson. And today we're talking about Arsenal. Fresh off the back of their impressive win over Liverpool, we wanted to take a closer look at their record in games against top six sides since Mikel Arteta took over. Ben, you wrote a fantastic article diving into the stats here. And to maybe why Arsenal have gone from being a team who looked a little weak or a little soft in these big games in the Premier League, and how that has changed quite dramatically over the last kind of couple of seasons. So why don't you talk our listeners and our viewers through why that has changed under Mikel Arteta?
As you mentioned, going into the big games, I think the main emotion for Arsenal supporters in years gone by has been fear. There was the 8-2 against Man United, 6-0 against Chelsea. There was a 6-3 against Man City. In these big games, Arsenal were leaking goals. I mean, after almost every game, one pundit, whether it was Graham Souness or Roy Keane, was calling Arsenal soft, saying there was no spine of the team. And it was the case. But things have changed under Mikel Arteta. It's taken time. But now, if you look into these big games this season, Arsenal are the best performing team. They're the only team against other teams in the big six, and I emphasise the big six before Brighton and Aston Villa and Newcastle fans kick off. They're the only unbeaten side, Arsenal. So 3 wins and 3 draws from those games, including a point at Anfield. And they're not shipping goals. The axis of Declan Rice, Gabriel and William Saliba has made Arsenal look a lot better defensively, and the coaching from Arteta, there's very little distances between the players, very narrow off the ball, and it's made a huge difference.
Yeah, Ewan, going into that game and perhaps coming out of it as well, a lot of people were saying that win over Liverpool kind of opened up that title race, and there was the kind of threat of Liverpool becoming the kind of contenders elect, or our main contenders to Man City this season. How important do you think winning these big games is to challenging in the Premier League, and how much do you think it'll play a part towards between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it was imperative that Arsenal got the win over Liverpool at the weekend. You could tell by the celebrations how much it meant to Mikel Arteta and his players, and it was so important if they want to realistically win the title, because in the last 9 games, I think they go away to Spurs, Man City and Manchester United. So, as Ben's article talked about, that's 3 of the traditional big six, and they've also got Wolves away and Brighton away in their last 10 games of the season. So you need to win those games and continue the record. The pressure will be ramped up ahead of those games. People will be talking about, well, look what happened to Arsenal last season. So if they want to win the title, they'll have to come out and show that they're not going to make the same mistakes as last season.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, we talk about Arsenal right now, but, they've obviously had some big names as head coaches over the years. Of course, Unai Emery was there before Mikel Arteta, who's doing a very impressive job at Aston Villa, still regarded as a great head coach. And then, of course, there's Arsene Wenger, who's, a legend at Arsenal. But how much has this kind of record in these big games actually changed since Arteta has taken over the job? Because, people who maybe don't follow Arsenal from day to day or season to season might think, well, it can't be that different from having an impressive head coach like Unai Emery, or of course Arsene Wenger, who brought so much success to the club.
Yeah. When collating the results, it was quite a surprising outcome. So when looking at comparing Unai Emery, Arteta, and Arsene Wenger's points per game versus the Big Six, we took Arsene Wenger's statistics from 2010, because the point made in the article was around that time the demise against these big teams began. Obviously, in the early days under Arsene Wenger, it was different. So when looking at those statistics, Arsene Wenger has a 1.05 points per game ratio. Unai Emery has a 1 points per game ratio, and Arteta has a 1.36 points per game ratio. Now, that is already a big difference, but that's not to take into account when Arteta first took over, Arsenal was still losing these big games because it was a big job to be done at the club, and they were still suffering from some of the mess from the sort of previous decade. But now results are improving massively. They beat Man City for the first time this season, and it was the lowest shots on target that a Pep Guardiola team has had in the Premier League. Against Liverpool, it was the highest expected goals against a Liverpool team in the Premier League stats of the GUM. So it's changing now, and it will be interesting to look at this statistic again, maybe in a couple of years' time, if Arsenal can solidify themselves as sort of genuine title contenders and be in that bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. You just probably finish up. It's probably also maybe worth considering, how this compares to, other kind of big managers in the Premier League. If you talk about Arsene Wenger, famously he used to always say, you got to beat the teams near the bottom half of the table. As long as you maximise the points there, then you can go into these kind of big showdowns and avoid defeat, hope to pick up points, of course, and he was really successful with that. Pep Guardiola has obviously been kind of all-conquering, and tactically, he's always made sure that his teams perform in these big games. Now you look at Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, who's always kind of been a thorn in the side of Man City. You can argue whether his record in those games was good enough or poor enough. This discussion for another video maybe one day. But, considering how much money Arsenal have spent under Arteta, the players they've got, the way that club have turned things around, do you think this almost psychological shift in these big games is the kind of last kind of building block that Arsenal needed to become genuine title contenders?
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I think it's the thing they need to do to get over the line and win the title. I think there's little doubt that Mikel Arteta is an elite tactician. I think he's shown that. His record points to that. The one big question mark is, can Arsenal get over the line? Can they show the mentality, when it really comes down to win trophies? Because, I know Arteta's won the FA Cup as his first or second season at Arsenal, but he needs to win trophies to become the elite manager. Klopp's done it, Guardiola's done it. It's the last thing for Arteta to achieve until, in my opinion, he can be judged as one of the best managers around. But I think this season Arsenal looked really good. The acquisition of Declan Rice is really took our team forward to the next level. I think he's been one of the best midfielders in the league this season. He's definitely one of the best holding midfielders in world football. So Arsenal need to win those big games and run to get over the line, because there's some tricky away days in the last 10 fixtures, and that's ultimately what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a fascinating second half of the season, which of course you can follow along on Transfermarkt. You can of course find Ben's article going deep into the stats and the reasons behind Arsenal's kind of turnaround in these top 6 games. And of course, until then, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and we'll be back soon with another video. So thanks very much, and cheers and goodbye.